As the sun dipped below the horizon, the lights were warming up for the first of 2 night races, and the last night event at Oran Park ever for the PRBs. So what are the main differences about racing at night compared to the day, mate?
It's much darker.
It's always a task to get used to the darkness, and the best driver in the sun is not always the best driver under lights. The grid positions were determined by the finishing places in the first race of the day, and Stig Richards and Chris Barry took off from the front of the grid. It was a lively start, with Stig off down the centre of the track and Chris on his inside. But bragging rights at turn 1 went to Warwick with a superb move to split the 2 front runners and take an early lead. Further back it was John Moyes who got the jump on Paul Barnes by the first corner. They both settled in behind Scott Matthews, who was hot on the heels of the Class A cars once again. But only a few corners into it, Adam Moore again was making himself a handful, driving up the inside of Paul, then taking another 2 cars in the next corner, then 1, then another 2 in subsequent corners, to take 4th place from 10th on the grid. Things in the midfield were certainly tight, with John Moyes and Scott Matthews being wound up by an aggressive Adam Moore. But it was out in front that the pace was frantic, with Stig charging up the inside of Warwick to take the lead. The 2 then broke away from the main pack by around a second a lap. Ivan was again driving well, staving off the attack from Chris Barry and a gallant Adam Moore, with John Moyes and Scott Matthews closely behind them. For once, Class C was a little spaced out, with Paul Barnes in isolation 4 seconds ahead of Rick Williams, with Adam Schreiber another few seconds behind. Once Stig and Warwick broke free, despite a fastest lap from Ivan, he was never able to reel them in, and instead he had to defend 3rd place from Adam Moore, who had taken Chris Barry for an amazing 4th position. As if this wasn't enough, John, Michael and Scott were still within a second of the pack. Lap 5 and Michael McCosker goes straight on at the end of turn 1 in plumes of white smoke and showers of sparks. He re-enters the track with some very strange drivetrain noises and only makes 1 more lap before you can hear something let go in the differential and Michael's race comes to an end. And that's the way it ended up, with Stig keeping Warwick out for an outright and class win, with Ivan denying Adam another podium finish, and Chris Barry holding out a good drive from both John Moyes and Scott Matthews to round out the top 6. Paul Barnes drove solidly for 2nd in class, with Rick Williams and Adam Schreiber in next. The minor placings were filled by Daniel, Stefan and Glenn.
Third place.
Yes.
And fastest lap of the race.
Is that right?
47.62. Congratulations.
Thank you very
How
much.
did the car feel, mate?
Beautiful. It was good. I just wanted to make sure I had a clean race and enjoy it. So it was good. Thank
You're
you.
picking up speed race by race.
Thank you.
You must be happy with that.
I am.
Excellent. Congratulations, mate.
Thank you, Andy.
First of all, congratulations on the 2nd place.
Thanks, mate.
Well driven.
Yeah.
How did the car feel?
Oh, car's feeling good. Just a bit scary out there. Just so bloody dark and trying to guess where the corners are. So doing it from memory more than anything else. No, it was a good race. I got start off third or 4th on the grid. got to the first corner first, and but got mowed down by Stig, and I just stuck in behind him for most of the race.
I thought I got a reasonable start because Chris and I were neck and neck, and so I thought we would have our own little battle into turn one, but then Warwick Williams suddenly appeared between the two of us at about 20 kilometres an hour more, and I was convinced he was going straight on. I couldn't imagine he was going to make it around the corner, but he did. So I briefly got into a battle with him and Chris, managed to squeeze past Warwick somewhere around the back of the circuit, can't quite remember, but from that point on just tried to put in consistent laps. Thanks to Maytech, the car's running really, really well, and I think I sort of managed to gap Warwick when overtaking a back marker, and from that point on, just kept an eye on the mirrors, tried to look after the car, and managed to get to the end first.
I finished fourth. We finished first in the C division. In our division, we had a win again, so that was good. But against the A cars, I had a good dice with Ivan and Chris for third, fourth, and fifth position, and I ultimately got fourth position. So that was fantastic. Not too bad, because I was in a pack and I was working off other people's taillights the whole time. So that made it quite easier to drive. I never got stuck in the dark on my own.
It was a fifth place. I thought it was a reasonable start, but when I got to turn 1, I thought I was letting Stig through, so I could chase him, and Warwick Williams came through, shortly followed by Stig, so went to third in the first corner. Took a little while to adapt to the dark conditions, because it's quite hard to see the apexes. I was finding that when you turn to the apex, your centre mirror is just full of headlamps, and you can't actually see the edge of the road. So once I worked out where the track actually was and just got used to the conditions, settled down to a reasonable pace. The cars are going pretty well. I think the toe out's knocked out a little bit on the rear, or the toe in, so the rear tyres got hot very quickly, and the steering was just a little bit off centre, so I actually think that wheel alignment's out, but not enough to worry. The car's still very quick.